Welcome to Travel in Style, a podcast created to inspire travel, have fun, and give a unique perspective on how to do all of the above through the eyes and lens of travel expert and award-winning photographer and publisher, Jill Pater. Jill has worked in over 100 countries on assignment and has published 15 books on architecture, design, travel, and gastronomy. Today's show is brought to you by Calpac, a lifestyle luggage and travel accessory brand. To find out more on Calpac, you can visit calpactravel.com, and to find out more on Jill, you can visit jillpater.com. Hello and welcome back to Travel in Style. I'm your host, Kevin, with my good podcast buddy, Sam.
Hello.
How's it going, Sam?
Oh, it is going well.
Awesome,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Today's podcast, Travel in Style, is sponsored by Calpac, and we are here, as always, with our resident travel expert, Jill Pater. Jill, how's it going?
It's going great, thanks.
Awesome. So today, I'm definitely excited about today.
Me too.
Right? Somewhere that I have always heard of, never gone to, but really want to.
I fantasize about it.
Well, I think it's mainly because of the water, right? The water looks
I'm down.
amazing.
Right. Down for it.
I'm talking about Fiji.
Yep.
Jill, let's dive right into Fiji, right? So I think a lot of people think Fiji is extremely far away, which it really is. Is it hard to get to Fiji, and is it worth it? So I really want to know, having been there, is it worth going?
Yes, it's absolutely worth going there. It's not as hard as you might think, particularly from, we're based in Los Angeles, but from the West Coast, there are direct flights to Nadi, and they're 9 hours. So
That's not that bad.
it's not a terrible flight.
I'm going to book this trip right now.
Yeah, exactly. But when you compare it to a place like Bali is very, it's like twice the amount of time to get there.
A full day.
Right. And so having that direct flight makes it really easy, and a lot of night flights from here. So you hop on the plane at night, wake up, hopefully you sleep on the plane, and you wake up and you're in paradise.
Up in Fiji.
Yeah.
It's got to be worth it. Like, no
Love
matter what amount of travel, it's got to be worth it.
Right.
And Fiji really surprised me because I had anticipated it being a lot more touristy. I knew I would like it, but I didn't think I would love it as much as I did. I didn't think I'd be blown away by it to the extent I was. And it's really magnificent. The whole South Pacific is really kind of a treasure.
Right. And I think that's a good point. Are the beaches of Fiji, like, are they worth it? I mean, are they as beautiful and picturesque as they appear?
Even more so, I would say. It's being out on the water there. Fiji is essentially an archipelago, so there's just literally you can like SUP to little islands. I mean, it's just island after island. There's big islands, there's small islands, and I mean, we took a seaplane to one of the islands, and you're flying, just a couple of feet over the water and landing on the water and having a little tugboat pick you up. I mean,
oh my gosh.
It is that, to me, the seaplane landing on the water in front of an island that's as good as it gets.
And a lot of movies were filmed there too, right? Because of this, I would think.
Yes.
Castaway?
Castaway.
Yeah. Oh man, I need to be in the movies.
Yeah.
I need to be an actor.
Hang out with Tom.
Right.
And what was the volleyball's name?
Wilson.
Wilson. Oh,
yeah.
It was Wilson.
It was Wilson.
Like, what was the Wilson volleyball's
right.
name?
I'm just wondering.
It was Wilson.
That's incredible. So, did you travel solo? Did you, like, a lot of people think about Fiji and they're like, oh, it's like romantic. That's when I think of Maui, that's the same kind of like idea I have. So is it good for solo travelers, or is it like group, or?
So Fiji is definitely a popular destination for honeymoons, but I would actually say it caters more toward adventure travelers than even honeymoon. Like, I think for honeymoon, probably more Maldives or Hawaii or places. Fiji actually has a lot of, there's enough grit there to make it more interesting for adventure travelers, and certainly any type of water sports you want to do, and internally on the islands, hiking and sand dunes. I would say as a solo, I would recommend it not as much just going by yourself. I think it's much more enjoyable with another person.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain trips that, we've been to a lot of destinations now, like London, you can easily do on your own. Fiji, I think having a partner in crime is a little bit easier.
It just doesn't have to be a lover, though.
It does not have to be a lover.
It doesn't have to be a honeymoon.
It doesn't have to be a honeymoon.
Right.
Absolutely not. Having a buddy, though, like, obviously diving, snorkeling, stand-up is probably one of the best places in the world for stand-up paddling, boarding. I mean, you just like...
The water is crystal clear.
It's crystal clear.
Right.
The Coral Coast, I mean, it's like, only 5 feet deep for like a mile, you know, and so like stand-up paddleboarding is great. You can like be on your paddleboard and see all the coral crystal clear.
So is Fiji a place that you originally went to for work, or is it just you got to go because it's amazing?
I went for my birthday. It was a big birthday.
Oh, so great.
So selfish, just
Happy
going
birthday.
for pleasure
Right.
again.
Happy birthday to me.
Right.
No, I did photograph a few things while I was there for a
Amazing.
feature, yeah.
And you like book those ahead of time, and then
Yes.
you
Yes.
kind of put that in your itinerary. That sounds amazing. I know this kind of sounds like you could go and end up staying there forever.
Right.
But for people traveling there for the first time, how long do you recommend staying?
Fiji is interesting because there are so many islands. It depends, again, what your interest is. Because of the length of the flight, too. We definitely did not have enough time there.
How long were you there?
There for 10 days.
Oh, and it still wasn't
man.
enough time.
Yeah. It's a
She's
place
like,
you're
more of a
not going to
month.
want to leave. It was painful. I mean, normally I'm ready to leave a place. Like when I leave, like I feel complete. I'm not like
And
dying
plus
to go
you
home.
worked and everything.
Right. I'm
but-
not dying to go home, but I feel like complete on that particular experience
ready
at that
to
point in
stay
time.
in Fiji.
But I was, we were making calls to the airline to see how much it would take to change the tickets
Yeah.
and get a new hotel. And so it was one of those. I would allow for a little bit more time because obviously if you're going to different islands, it takes time to get there if you're traveling by plane. And even internally on the island, there's just, it's kind of one of those places once you start to chill out, you need more time than you think. You need more chill time than you might think.
What makes it so captivating? Is it just the beaches? I mean, the beaches obviously look amazing. Is it the food, the people, the culture?
Right.
All of the above. So the people are amazing, like super hospitable. The culture, the influences in food, a lot of spice, a lot of curry, a lot of Indian influence in that region. It definitely its own culture and its own thing going on, and you can do lots of things with locals. They're very friendly and hospitable in that way. And then the water, just the beauty, the natural beauty of the place is so wonderful. And then if you are interested in certainly water sports of any kind, sailing, snorkeling, diving, stand-up paddleboarding, I mean, you just can't get enough of it. It's almost like the more you're there, the more you want
To stay.
to stay.
So
And
that
never leave.
That being said, cost-wise, what does it take? So did you guys stay at a hotel? I'm assuming that all the adventure activity stuff costs money, and then there's food. Is it a costly place to visit?
I would say it's definitely not, in terms of like a top 10 place of budget travel places, just because you have a longer international flight, and that's a direct flight. So, it's it does kind of book up. The tickets are never super, super cheap for
Okay.
that, like they are to say. Sometimes you can get really cheap European flights and different tickets. For that, it's a pretty standard price to fly there. And then we stayed at a boutique hotel. It wasn't crazy expensive, but it's not, I wouldn't say, as many budget options there, especially like as you mentioned, Sam, when you get into the adventure thing. So like, we rented a boat and went sailing for a day. So, those are the types of things, but so worth it once you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you got to really plan ahead and be like, I know I want to be a part of all the activities.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't just lay there.
Yeah.
Well, so-
And it's not prohibitively expensive by any means, but it's not like, there are some places you can go so cheap
Super
and like
cheap,
live on the
right.
cheap. There you
Yeah.
need a little more help with internal transportation and, the activities too.
Are there things you do before you travel to a destination like Fiji, to track cheaper flights, like when they might be available, or just really plan out in advance so it doesn't seem like it is so costly?
Yeah, so I when I'm supposed to be working and want to procrastinate, I have like a world map and it has all the destinations I want to go to. And so when I'm, need a break and, editing something that I don't want to be editing, I always just plug in flights. So the site that I use is Momondo, and it's a great flight.
Can you
It's
spell that? Because
Sure.
Momondo.
it's
Pulling it up right now.
MOMONDO.com.
Momondo.com.
And it's a
Sponsor us, Momondo.
Right.
yeah, exactly. It kind of tracks all the broker flights for things. And so I always again, when I'm bored and want to kill time, we'll just punch in 10 different destinations and see where things are at. So you kind of have an idea. And then depending on the time of year, I might have 5 options I'm looking at, and I'll punch it in. Then I look at the hotels, and then
Weigh it out.
I
You weigh out your
decide it's
options.
time to go. It's time to pull the trigger on this. Yeah. But it's a great way to see because, one of the best ways to really save money on travel is just if you're flexible on the time, it's booking the getting the best price on flights and on the hotel. And that's something you can save literally 70% of the cost if you just watch it and track it. Yeah. Right. And that's not traveling on low season either. It's usually kind of like shoulder season, which I prefer traveling during that season anyway. But you can save a lot of money that way.
So you've traveled all over, right? And, some of our previous podcasts, we've gone to London, a couple more places that sound like they might be easier to go to, right? Because they're just more, there's more happening, right? Like London's a big city. Is there a preference for you, or do you find it easier to get around or to or within, some of these more exotic locations? Or do you prefer, like a London when you are traveling to these different spots?
So I like a combination of both. I mean, certainly places like Fiji, it's a big destination. You're putting a lot out there to go to one singular destination. You're not really, you can travel relatively easily among the South Pacific Islands, which is rare for islands. Usually you always have to fly back to a main port. But in Fiji, you can actually fly if you wanted to do like a South Pacific island tour. That's very reasonable and possible to do there. I think it's just mixing it up a bit. So I like to mix up the travel. So sometimes you have destinations. And coming up on the podcast, we're going to be talking about Tanzania, and you're putting a lot of money into the flight, into the travel of that country. And then there's other places that you can kind of that are a little bit more fluid, like we'll talk about Berlin and the Baltics, where you can just go from one city to the next, and it's much easier to get there and easier to get around. And so I think having that mix, because when you're at a natural destination like Fiji, it's like you have this nature, and you do have to give a little bit of effort to get away from cities and to get to some of these like pristine natural wonders of the world. It does take a little bit of effort to get to some of them, and it's well worth it when you do.
You don't want to leave.
Right.
So
you don't.
What were the top 3 things that you did in Fiji? You were celebrating a birthday, obviously, and you did a couple projects there for work, but top 3 things.
Top 3 things. Well, I say number 1 is a seaplane. I love being in small aircraft over places. That's just like, I don't know.
I've never heard anybody
landing on the water. You just feel like
very risky planes.
High risk travel.
Right.
I love the seaplane. Is like 100% one of my favorite things there. I love stand up paddleboarding there because again,
you can
the
just
look
at the coral
and the snorkeling. You're just right there, and we stayed on the coral coast, so it's literally just you imagine like 50 to 100 feet out, and it's just pure coral. You just like swim on top of it or kayak on top of it.
Amazing.
So the water sports there are just, it's just so natural. You're just in it. You're in it so much. So those would be my top 3: the seaplane, stand up paddleboarding, and then kayaking / snorkeling.
Where did you guys stay specifically?
We stayed on the Coral Coast at the Maui Palms Resort, and then we also stayed on Vomo Island. So that was we took a seaplane to Vomo Island, which is a private island, actually very close to where they filmed Castaway. Ironically,
How do you get on
so
a
you
private
could actually
island?
go there on your honeymoon and cast away your day.
Right, you're there.
Kind of have both experiences in one.
How do you get on a private island?
The seaplane.
Oh, okay. So you got to.
You have to know the right people.
Right. The private plane.
Right. Exactly. That sounds incredible. Like I would.
So the resort, so Vomo Island, it's a resort, and they bought the island, and that's pretty common in Fiji. There are a lot of like these little smaller islands that you can easily walk the circumference, and then you just like stay on that island. They have everything you need there.
Just stay on that island.
Yeah,
just
your own private
forget
island.
About it all.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
With a place like Fiji, are there any of your, kind of your creature comforts that you can find or still have? I mean, I don't even know. Like, how's the food there? Is there shopping markets? Is there television? Like, I don't know. Like,
all those things are there.
Are you able to watch
Is
Netflix
there McDonald's,
and chill?
Starbucks?
Right?
You can totally watch Netflix and chill.
They seem so remote.
Yeah, no, all those creature comforts are there, and certainly you have a wide variety of hospitality options, everything from, hostels, B&Bs, Airbnbs to, the top luxury hotels. So all that stuff is there. The main central part of Nadi has a large market, and you can get all the foodstuffs and things that you want. The food there is amazing. They have, a couple specialty dishes. They have this stew that they bake in the earth, and it's like a big fire ceremony that they do. It's called Lovo, and they
bake it in the earth.
They bake it in the earth. They do a big ceremony around it. It's pretty cool. And then they also have their own kind of version of ceviche that they call cocada, which it's a ceviche made with like a coconut milk, raw fish. And you can imagine amazing seafood, great spices, great curries. So lots of food options. But yeah, you're not remote. I mean, it is still very much a hospitality destination. So any creature comforts you need, you can get.
You can find them.
Yes.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yes.
So here's one for you. Is there, because Fiji is, again, so kind of remote and exotic, are there things that come up, while you're traveling within the Fiji Islands or anything like that, that just are a shock, a surprise, things you weren't expecting to see? For example, right, I know there are islands in the Bahamas where I think there's swimming pigs. Is there anything kind of crazy in Fiji that you just, did not expect at all?
I didn't expect that.
I didn't see like the swimming pig equivalent, but one of the things that really surprised me about Fiji is I thought it would be very touristy, almost like, say, like a Cancun of the South Pacific to some extent. And so I was surprised at how natural it was, and to some extent how undeveloped a lot of it was. So where we stayed up on the Coral Coast, it was probably like an 1.5 to 2 hour drive from the airport. And where we were, it's pretty remote. So in that specific resort, there weren't like grocery stores and things that you could walk to, or restaurants or anything. Like you're very island lifey there. And so that surprised me because I had imagined it being like just hyper developed.
Yeah. Do you like that on your trips? Do you like, for lack of a better word, like feeling uncomfortable in order to truly soak in the destination that you're in? Do you like being surprised?
To some extent, I guess it depends what the surprise is.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's a big part of travel. It's like that element of surprise and
spontaneity.
And not knowing, exactly what you're going to get. I was on a trip recently and everything just worked out exactly the way I had planned it. And I left there and I was fishy. I'm kind of bored. Like, this is kind of like not as fun as normal, where there's an element of surprise and where you don't know everything that's going to happen. So yeah, I think surprise is an important element of travel.
Since you went for your birthday, was there anything that kind of stood out besides your top 3 favorite things that you did? But was there ever a time where you're like, it's my birthday, I'm going to go full out? Like, what? I'm just imagining.
It's my birthday.
Just imagining Jill on this island of Fiji being like, this is it. This is how I want to spend this, the beginning of my new year.
Yeah, I think I had quite a bit of anxiety before this birthday.
No.
So the Fiji was just like a way to chill. And while I was there, it was almost like I booked it in that anxiety of like, this is, turning a decade, and and so for me it was just like this such a big treat because the birthday had passed, and then immediately after my actual birthday we had a party here in Los Angeles, and then I got on the plane and went there. So it was kind of like the present. It was like it was really more the birthday present than the birthday, so to speak.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, it was R&R.
Do you, so when you're specifically for work, do you care where you shoot? Because I feel like for me, right, like I would go to Fiji every single time to shoot photography, right? Like I don't care what I'm shooting, I would only go to Fiji. But is it things that you think up before you go on your trips, or is it just, choose?
I think with what I do, it's important to go to new places. Like I couldn't get away with going back to the same place, because you have to produce like new volumes of work. So it just depends. Like I always have a big idea list, like at all times. I have my board next to my desk of all the destinations I want to go to, and then kind of an idea of new books I want to work on. And they're usually like culinary based, or they're, architecture based, or it might just be a travel based book. And so I kind of always have ideas out there, and then the blanks get filled in with, is it the right time of year to go there? Is it the right destination at the right time? Is there something new being built there? Is there like a great Michelin star restaurant we want to like capture and do a food book or food journey on. So it's like the stories, I always have like a huge bucket of stories and then like kind of pick and choose based on timing and, budget and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah, and then it all like clicks together.
Yeah, it does. It always does.
Well, thank you for sharing Fiji with us. It is now time for
Drum
Jill's packing hack of the day. And this time we're talking about clothes. And what do you recommend?
Sure. So I think oftentimes when we think about packing everything we need for the trip, we think we have to have, 1 or 2 outfits per day for every day that we're somewhere. But I think one of the biggest packing hacks that I've used lately is, depending on where you're staying and if your hotel or B&B has some type of laundry service available, I highly recommend making use of it. It's always easier to pack or to travel with like a tighter wardrobe. You know what I mean? You know what you're wearing, things intermatch. And it's something that I really didn't do up until a couple years ago, but I found that, one, it certainly helps you pack carry-on only. But it helps conserve space. You're not carrying like 20 things, and it makes you more comfortable in your trip there. Unpacking, you know what you're going to wear. There isn't a big picking out different things, like your outfits.
Right.
And it actually makes it easier on a day-to-day basis to pick out what you're going to wear. So definitely take advantage of like hotel laundry service.
Oh, smart.
And not pack. Like if you're going somewhere for 7 days, you don't have to pack 7 or 14 things. Yes, yeah.
That's my fault. Like I try to plan 1 outfit for every day.
So maybe even 2.
Yeah.
There's like day and then there's night.
Yes.
True.
Well, thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Jill, thank you so much again. Definitely looking excited for our next trip.
Yes, please join us again in 2 weeks for Travel and Style. You can learn more about Jill Pater on jillpater.com, and to read more about each destination, please visit Calpac's blog, destinationcalpac.com, for Jill's tips and amazing photography. Find more about our podcast, Travel and Style, on iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe, rate, and send us a nice review. Happy travels!